Welcome to Lecture 7. We go on with um, elements to understand and to play with landscapes. The title of this lecture is Museums and Cultural Landscapes. We introduce the term museum, and we will see why. I want to allow me to go back to the UNESCO World Heritage Convention in 1972. This is very important because we have just celebrated the 50th anniversary of this very important convention, which has changed um, in an important way the understanding and the value, the evaluation of heritage. The convention introduced two terms which are very complementary: cultural heritage and natural heritage. The first being the heritage made by monuments, group of buildings, sites, villages, towns. The second one be more natural, and so describing or containing natural features, geological and physiographical formations, natural sites. And this is also including the ocean, and so water and underground natural heritage. These two terms became from 72 elements to describe better and to also start a list of protected sites by UNESCO. UNESCO provided also a better description of these two elements, and then provides a normative to describe them, to recognize them, and to list them. So let me quote the two definitions given by UNESCO UNESCO in 1972. The first, cultural heritage, is described as, I quote, inherent assets which people identify and value as a reflection and expression of their evolving knowledge, beliefs, and traditions, and of their understanding of the beliefs and traditions of others. Natural heritage is defined as inherited habitats, species, ecosystems, geology, and landforms, including those in and under water, to which people attach value. Let us um, understand better this definition. They contain a lot of elements, a lot of keywords that we should understand for our exercise education into landscape. You see that in both definition there is the term people, the identification, the understanding of people, the people, the awareness of value that people can have is a very relevant, and this is very innovative because local population or visiting population or tourists, they are an active part of heritage. Without them, there is no heritage. There is no use of protection or keeping of this heritage. And the education to this heritage pass to the reflection, expression of understanding of the evolution of these elements, the beliefs, the traditions, also the knowledge, and so the scientific elements of different culture, they become very important to fix what we call cultural heritage. So on one side, we can say they are monuments, group of building, and site, but also they include an intangible heritage, which is the elements, which are all the elements that help us to recognize and play with cultural, with heritage. The other thing is also natural heritage. This is expressed in a much in a more detailed way, including a lot of keywords, which are habitats, species, ecosystem, etc. They are all elements that we have to understand to value them and to protect them. The combination of these two elements 20 years later in 1992 formed the term cultural landscape, which was very innovative. So we don't talk anymore only on simple landscape, but cultural landscape are a combination or a dialogue of nature and man, so cultural and natural heritage. So the capacity of man to deal and to combine, to transform nature into a cultural landscape, into a cultural place. The definition I quote is so natural cultural landscape are illustrative of the evolution of human society and settlement over time under the influence of the physical constraint and or opportunities presented by their natural environment and of successive social, economic, cultural forces, both external and internal. This definition is also very deep, very full of concepts that we should consider. The cultural landscape must be understood as the result of capacity of man of human society to shape the nature, the natural landscape, to settle its society, its community, and being capable to deal with the physical elements, which can be negative or can be constrained or can be positive opportunities, and also including the society, the question of society, of economy and cultural and culture, internal and external, which means that cultural landscape are also a result of introduction or influence of external forces, external cultures. And this is the term diversity that will come very soon. Then I already suggested you the importance of European Landscape Convention in 2000. So you see, 1972, 1992, and 8 years later, Europe is ready to deal, to write, to define, and to approve a complete convention. It's not a law, it's a convention, which is a suggestion to all the European governments to understand the value of landscape. And this is the title of my series of lecture, Landscape as an Identity of Europe. And so landscape is a European identity, is a European element, which has provided this convention, which says that the landscape is recognized as a key element of individual and social well-being. Landscape contributes to the formation of local cultures and is a basic component of the European natural and cultural heritage. Landscape is also an important part of the quality of life for people everywhere. So to keep our cultural landscape, our natural and cultural heritage is very important to, we can say, go back to a quality of life that we less and less can experience. And then Article 1 deals also with what we are saying about cultural heritage and natural heritage. People is important. And so Article 1 says that landscape means an area as perceived by people. So you see the word people is again here very important. We are the relevant part of this game. We should be able to perceive the value of landscape, to protect it, to shape it, to change it in a sustainable way. And so, sorry, I go back to the quotation. Landscape means an area as perceived by people whose character is the result of the action and interaction of natural and or human factors. We are ready now to another step. ICOM is the I already told you, is the International Council of Museum, which was established in its new version in the post-war, in the second post-war, and then had a continuous evolution and has become a very important actor, also being the main place where museum professionals deal. In Milan in 2016, the ICOM has suggested a dialogue between museum and cultural landscape, looking for the a new stage, a new life of museum, not anymore closed places to preserve collections, but becoming important element for the education of communities, education of citizens. So museums take a new responsibility, uh, um, enlarging their control and their action to territory and community needs and problems, and enlarging their responsibility to natural and cultural heritage in situ. Number two, promoting an integrated approach to the protection and valorization of heritage. And the third element is developing museums as centers of responsibility of heritage. So if you consider museum a completely new institution, open to its territory, museum can have a completely new life, a completely new capacity of becoming educational places, of becoming open places to host the community, educate them, but also to become the institutions able to help the protection, first of all, the understanding of landscape, of territory, and um, be able to promote a policy to protection and enhancing valorization of heritage. The following step, or the previous step, which then goes parallel with this 2016 element, was the Siena Charter. So ICOM Italy provided a Siena Charter playing with Italian landscape, which was also called Museums and Cultural Landscape. This charter of 10 points was rather important, describing or discovering Italian landscape as the image, the main image, the main identity and symbolic identity of the country. So Article 1 of the Charter says, the Italian landscape is the country where we live, which surrounds us with the images and symbols that identify and characterize it. Number two, the Italian museums, due to mere numbers, dispersions, and importance of their heritage, constitute a significant element of the Italian landscape, in the great majority of cases associated with their own physical and geographical territories. So on one side is Italian landscape as the symbol, the image, the portrait of our country. Second element is the very important collection and number and quality of Italian museums. The two elements should play together to become a new to start a new adventure to the protection and enhancing of landscape. So Article 3 says, I quote, "The identity of the Italian landscape is intimately related to the special nature of a cultural heritage, which is broad, widespread, slid, stratified, and an integral part of the environment, as in few other places around the world." So the Italy is discovered as a huge open-air museum, and we will deal with open-air museum in this lecture. So imagine museums, open-air landscape, they become one element that play together with to open new fields to our culture, to our tourism. And so the other three articles I share with you are: Italy needs a new and different model and system for protection. As part of a new and different model, museums can be a strength as regional offices for active protection of cultural heritage. Involving the museum, Article 5, in the management and care of the cultural landscape means to develop their natural vocation by extending their responsibility from their collections to the cultural heritage and surroundings, their local towns, villages, and communities. So museums go out from their walls to give their expertise to the local heritage. And so they deal with local towns, with villages, they deal with communities. Number 6 is again on responsibility. The responsibility for the landscape involves dual commitment: the care and the management of the heritage in a framework of sustainable development of the territory on one hand, and attention to the images and symbols that identify and characterize the landscape itself on the other. I think we can now go to the second part and final part of the lecture and of the course. We have spoken about open-air museums. Italian landscape can be seen as a big open-air museum. Landscape is so varied, is so including villages, including important parks, lands, farm houses, etc., is a big open-air museum. Also for the real, for the variety from north to center to southern of the to south of the country. But I open this to international vision of open air museum. Open air museum was invented, we can say, shaped at the end of 19th century in Northern Europe, and then this model was spread all over the world. Why the need of an open air museum? An open air museum is an artificial collection of old artifacts, old buildings, old parts of cities, which were decaying, which were in high risk for wars, for natural decay, for material, etc. And so in Stockholm, it was in 1891 a pioneer, a pilot experience of Skansen, taking a hill of the capital of Sweden to install, to move important different artifacts from all over the country to protect them. This provided the capacity of concentrating this heritage, very delicate, mostly timber, but also in granite and stone and brick, Also being able to repair, to control, to keep in function these buildings, to give them a future. And this open air museum, they became educational places. And so these were the real ancestors of what Siena Charter was suggesting, that museums can become the controller, the defender of our open air museum, intending this with a landscape. So just let me show, this is the map, a map providing the complexity and how villages were shaped, rearranged together. There is a square, there are many routes. This is into a forest, so in the natural landscape of this country, which is Sweden. We see an old postcard with traditional wooden factories, farmhouses, which were moved into this place. And we see today they are still here in very good condition. They are visited by many visitors. This is a real educational place, and we can see the timber construction that was in my previous lecture. We can see how these different buildings, timber, stone, plastered or not, are combined into an invented or in a new street scene. We see also that these places are inhabited by actors or by people who wear traditional dresses, and they keep the fireplaces. They continue to make some food and to make some traditional craftsmanship, and also they organize. They keep the intangible heritage, which is local festival, dance, music, etc. So a complete control, a complete reappropriation of the old tradition. This model was followed very soon by Sweden, by Finland, Norway, and Denmark. I show you the open air museum of Helsinki, the capital of Finland, in an island which is called Seurasaari, and we see the aerial view of the island, which is the open air museum, and we see a map of the different elements of this museum. And in this aerial view, we see that it's the same concept, moving huts, houses, villages in danger. This is a church, for instance. There are windmills, there are huts and different elements which were moved and recombined in an artificial village. We see a traditional bell tower of a church. We see a windmill, and we see again barns, which are very typical with the system of log construction. And here other beautiful elements that are continuously kept. And this became a laboratory for restoring wood, timber, also detailed elements. Then we go to a completely different area. We go to Vietnam, and we see that also in this other very far area in Asia, it has been provided an ethnographic museum, moving traditional houses from all over the country to make a place where people can learn, be educated into traditional houses. Also timber in a completely different climate. So again, climate, material, construction, but also is very interesting to see how the patterns, how the decoration, the description, the shape of these timber elements are really typical, really unique, and completely different from Northern Europe or Northern America. And we see the interior where the pavement, all the elements are provided with timber and bamboo, of course, which is the local material. We see here a farmhouse traditional farmhouse. We see that the walls are here breathing, and is a completely different situation than in Northern Europe, of course. The interior of these houses, and then another traditional house, very, very monumental, and a big attraction for the visitors. The lecture number 7 has ended. I hope that this idea of enlarging the responsibility of museums to become educational places and to become places to protect landscape is something that you can discuss with your teacher, and also suggest or search in your area open air museums and cultural and define cultural landscape. Thank you for your attention. It has been a pleasure to share with you my knowledge, my understanding on landscape. I really hope this will be a starting point for you, for your classes, for your students, for you students to open your eyes into a very wide culture, which is the culture of landscape. Thank you for your kind attention.